Things are moving fast in Ukraine and crypto is responding in suit. It's the first real global test of crypto in a geopolitical crisis. What happens next could very well set the precedent of things to come. History in the making, folks, and we are keeping watch. Welcome to the Daily Forkast, February 28th, 2022. I'm Angie Lau, Editor-in-Chief of Forkast, covering all things blockchain. Well, Ukraine's president says he's spoken with other world leaders on further steps to take against Russia, while the country's vice prime minister has called on crypto exchanges to block Russian users. We're going to take a look at the crypto world's growing role in the situation, plus a whole lot more coming up. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world.
Join thousands of NFT traders who already start their day on CryptoSlam.
Let's kick off with moves from the crypto space around Russia's war in Ukraine. First up, Russian soldiers who surrender to Ukraine are being offered a reward in cash or crypto. In an Instagram video, local TV host and honorary ambassador to the United Nations Population Fund, Masha Afrosinina in Ukraine, said surrendering soldiers will receive the equivalent of $60,000 and an amnesty after trial. Afrosinina says the offer comes from the Ministry of Defense in Ukraine, as well as the global IT community. Meanwhile, one of the world's biggest crypto exchange says it is working to comply with sanctions on Russia. Following the invasion of Ukraine, a statement from Binance cited in the media said the exchange has assembled a task force to take action against those that have had sanctions levied against them. Lawmakers in Washington are looking to impose crypto sanctions on Russia that will have minimal impact on the rest of the market, with one expert telling us this.
The U.S. Office of Foreign Assets Control, for example, published already a guidance to encourage exchanges, miners, wallet providers, and practically everyone in the crypto space to implement some form of sanction compliance program. And I believe we might be seeing more and more proactive encouragements from the authorities in this situation.
We're going to have more from Kelvin Lam on Russian sanctions on tomorrow's show. Meanwhile, Binance is also supporting humanitarian efforts in Ukraine by making a donation of $10 million and setting up a crypto crowdfunding site, the Ukraine Emergency Relief Fund. It had received almost $6 million worth of donations by Monday morning Asia time. Now, the Ukrainian government is also accepting crypto donations to support the military that, according to blockchain analysis company Elliptic, those were around $12 million by Sunday evening. You can find those stories and more at forecast.news. Over in India, the country's top court has queried the government over the legality of crypto. Local media reports that the Supreme Court has asked for clarification in the wake of surging Bitcoin scams in India. Forecast's Pradipta Mukherjee reports from Calcutta, India.
While hopes over legalization of cryptocurrencies in India were raised by Nirmala Sitharaman's announcement of a 30% tax on crypto income in February's budget this year, the finance minister has since said that the tax does not mean crypto has been legalized. So just what is the government's stance? A good question, and it's one which the Supreme Court now wants an answer to. Justices D.Y. Chandrachud and Surya Kant asked Additional Solicitor General Aishwarya Bhati for clarification after hearing a matter relating to a Bitcoin scam. The Gainbitcoin scam is an alleged fraud of 87,000 Bitcoin worth around $2.6 billion. One expert told Forkast there are 3 reasons why ordinary investors are very keen to hear what the government has to say.
1, we do not have specific legislation dealing with this. Second, we've seen the central finance minister impose a tax on cryptocurrencies without an enabling legislation regarding the classification of this sort of trade. And third, because we've seen an overall negative position of the Reserve Bank of India through its pronouncements on cryptocurrency.
Gupta says that clarity on all 3 of these would clear up confusion over what investors can and cannot do, and that will help the sustainability of the crypto sector in India. For Forecast, I am Pradipta Mukherjee, Kolkata, India.
Well, in last month's annual letter to CEOs, BlackRock's Larry Fink spoke about the power of stakeholder capitalism, and we're seeing that in play right now. He said that in today's globally interconnected world, companies must create value for their shareholders, and one way of doing could be via tokenization. So why aren't more companies trying it? Well, who better to ask than a passionate advocate for tokenization? We are, of course, talking about Henry Chung, CEO of Fusang. And Fusang aims to reshape investment markets with blockchain technology. It's all about tokenization, isn't it, Henry?
Absolutely. And to enable stakeholder capitalism. We're big fans of that here as well at Team Fusang.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, you're seeing the opportunity in the space, and now increasingly folks like Larry Fink, institutional legacy folks, also seeing the opportunity. So let's talk about the potential here. What potential does tokenization offer to both companies and stakeholders? And why aren't we seeing more of it?
You know, stakeholder capitalism's been topic du jour for a while now. At the World Economic Forum last year, it was the theme of the entire conference. And I think that more and more people, especially in these times that we're living in, are talking about stakeholder capitalism because we recognize that many of the communities in which we live, the companies that we work for, aren't necessarily always aligned with ourselves as individuals, as participants, stakeholders in these communities. But I think until today, it's been quite hard to actually execute on stakeholder capitalism. When you look at a large public company today, the set of shareholders and the set of consumers are often two very, very different groups of people, so no surprise, there isn't always alignment between them. But with tokenization, being able to open up the pool of all kinds of assets, including companies, to their own stakeholders, I think finally we can get closer to this ideal.
And of course, trust. So what about trust? What do you think is needed to build confidence in the technology behind the types of tokens that can be issued, whether it's a utility or a security, for example? You know, we're talking about those things so that people can feel really comfortable and happy to get on board because they trust it.
Trust in technology is one thing, but I think probably even more important is that we need to start building trust in what I call the asset layer. People can and will look underneath the token and say, what exactly does this represent? And unfortunately, too often in the crypto space, when you dig that one layer deeper, it looks a little bit messy. It is not clear what exactly you're getting, what you're owning, if you're having any legal rights at all over an underlying asset. And I think if we can start to bring on the line better companies, better asset quality where you have trust in the asset, trust in technology will naturally follow because people will then view technology, as they should, just as the conduit to get access to these exciting investments.
You know, to that point, Henry, you've said before that communities are key to all of this. So how do you create a community that can really help guarantee the success of a tokenization project and really share in that value, as you've said?
By doing exactly what we've been talking about, by turning stakeholders into shareholders. And to me, the best way of actually building these communities and financially incentivizing them for being early adopters is to actually give them upside in the success of the platform itself. Taking a page from the ICO and crypto world in terms of actually delivering utility value to customers and having value capture on that side, but also as Fusang's doing with our own IPO, creating security tokens that represent shares so that people get both the equity and the utility upside, and also enabling companies to do things like launch grant pools as we've begun to do, creating pools not just of tokens but actually of our own equity, and using that to incentivize investors and issuers, and when they come and add value not only to Fusang as a centralized platform, but when they add value to each other and the network around us, dealing them into owning part of our platform and the network itself.
Henry Chung of Fusang, thanks so much for joining us today. And that's the Daily Forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. And as crypto defines its role in this regional crisis that has global implications, our team at Forecast will be here. As this story continues, do subscribe for the latest developments. They have worldwide implications and impact you most of all. at some stage or another. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Until the next time.